seems like there was not such a great, not too many people were excited. But I'm excited even if one person comes to the class and we can learn some Torah together. It's worth it for me. What are you saying? The story is told, but the Rebbe that once the Rebbe asked somebody in, I think it was London, or I think it was London, and he asked him that he should go many years ago in the 60s. They should go out and make a big tumult about teaching women the laws of family purity. And he should go and he should rent a place and make a big party and hopefully, advertising. And blah, blah. So he rented a fancy hotel and he made advertising and he bought a whole caterer and thousands of dollars. And one woman showed up. One woman showed up. And he gave his full class with one woman. And he was, when the Rebbe, he wrote back to the Rebbe, gave his account. He said, very, very depressing. One woman showed up to my class. So the Rebbe answered him, Moses only had one mother. So one woman, you don't know what that one woman could be the mother of Moshe Rabbeinu. So it's all worth it for one woman. So let's learn together something. Yeah, we're going to learn something, a beautiful sikha of the Rebbe. This is sikha of the Rebbe. I hope you have the book, the new book that was given out. I hope you got the book. If you didn't get the book, those that are listening on Facebook, you should get the book. Call up Chabad or whatever. Call Chabad 487-2934. Leave a message, and we'll get you over the book. So we are holding on page number 3 in your book. The Parsha of Shmini, beautiful Parsha. Shmini is a beautiful Parsha. Many beautiful things in this week's Parsha. From the story, from the dedication of the temple, the Gemara says that the day that the temple was dedicated was the greatest joy in heaven and the earth. It was extremely like a day of the wedding of your only child, and at the same time. We had the tragedy that happened on that day, on the 8th day of the dedication, where the 2 sons of Aaron passed away. And then the Torah goes into the laws of a kohen a little bit more, and then we end off with the animals that God asked that Jews should eat, and the animals we shouldn't eat. And as the Torah says, "Lahavdil ben hakodesh ben hachoil," that God is they're able to separate between what's pure and what's impure, between what's mundane and what's holy, and to be able to differentiate. We as Jews make havdalas, we make separations between a kosher animal, non-kosher animal, a pure person, an impure person. These are many kinds of separations and distinctions between a kohen and a Levi and a Yisrael, a regular Jew. So we have distinctions, not that they are one is more better than the other, but actually every person has their role. So far, the Rebbe is going to go with this concept of that every individual has their role. We find in mitzvahs itself. We find in the concept of mitzvahs that every mitzvah has its role and has its purpose. It's 248 positive commandments, 365 negative commandments. Every mitzvah, whether they are positive or negative, has a role, has a purpose, what God brought the mitzvahs down to the world for. In general, they're divided in 2 categories. As I said, 248 positive and 365 negative. In Kabbalah, in Sidis, it explains that the 248 positive is a concept of chesed, is an action, is a concept of an active mitzvah. It's a concept of giving something, whether it's giving to God, giving to another, giving to the world, giving to yourself. It's a concept of an active action, of a kindness. And that's why all mitzvahs are in Kabbalah called the concept of a tzedakah, a charity. As I said, whether it's a charity to God, a charity to ourselves, a charity to somebody else. And all negative commandments is to not to do, is a concept of mitzvahs leisa. It's an abstination, to abstain. Shev, as the expression of Talmud says, Shev al tasa, sit back and don't do. Don't do. Don't do an act. And that's why in Kabbalah, it's characterized as the concept of gevura, severity, which means that I'm holding myself back. Chesed is to give. Gevura is to hold myself back. Restraint. So I want to have this non-kosher food. I restrain myself. I hold myself back from this non-kosher food. That takes gevura. That takes restraint. I want it. Everybody else is eating it. So I hold myself back. So now we have an interesting concept in Jewish law. Let's say I have a mitzvah saseh and a mitzvah slices at the same time. I have the capability of doing a mitzvah say and a mitzvah slices say at the same time. For example, Baruch Hashem, I had a child with a boy, and the 8th day of Milah is going to be on Shabbos. It's a great celebration. It's a bris. Circumcise my child on the 8th day. It's Shabbos. It's a mitzvah saseh. It's a positive commandment. You shall circumcise your child on the 8th day. But wait a second. It's Shabbos. And Shabbos, to cut, to do so to say, even a minor operation of cutting the flesh, and now it's going to bleed, and now I have to put something to stop the bleed. These are all things that are prohibited on Shabbos. So what should I do? Should I do an active mitzvah? Or should I do it, say, wait a second, I shouldn't do the mitzvah. Let me do the mitzvah on Sunday. Not that I'm not going to do the mitzvah. I'll do it on Sunday. I'll do it the day after. So what should I do? It's a question. What overpowers? Which mitzvah overpowers what? You have a mitzvah say, positive commandment. You have a mitzvah leisa, another commandment. What overpowers what? So here in text on 1, you have the Gemara. The Gemara says, a shloka said, in a situation where an active and a passive mitzvah coincides, and it's impossible to fill both. I cannot do both on this day. If I'm going to do the bris, I'm going to do certain things on Shabbos, which is not allowed. So either I'm going to do the bris, or I'm not going to do the bris. So then I'm not going to do the mitzvah say. I'm not going to say I'm not going to do a bris. I'll do the bris on Sunday. But right now I'm not going to do the bris. I'm not going to do the mitzvah say. I'm going to push off the positive commandment because it's a negative commandment not to do an action of a cutting on Shabbos in the flesh. I'll do that. Well, that's delicious. So that it's ideal. If not, let the active mitzvah override the positive mitzvah. So the Shlokish says that we're going to break the Shabbos in a way. We're going to break the Shabbos. We're going to do the bris on Shabbos. And that's what we do. We do the bris on Shabbos. A male comes, he does the circumcision, he stops to he does all the things that he needs to do. For the bris, he does. That means the positive overpowers the negative. The Milah overpowers the Shabbos. That's a very interesting concept. That the Milah would overpower the Shabbos. And really, the question would be, what does it mean that it overpowers the Shabbos? What does it really mean that the Milah? That means I'm not keeping Shabbos. What is the meaning? Does it mean that I'm not keeping Shabbos, but I don't have to keep Shabbos? Or the meaning is that I am keeping Shabbos by doing the Milah. I am doing the concept of Shabbos as I'm doing the Milah on the Shabbos, as I'm doing the circumcision on the Shabbos. So look at this Nachmanides, the Ramban explains this, tries to give an explanation to this concept. Because it's a very interesting concept. in Jewish law. And we're going to bring this concept down to this fashion in a moment. In truth is, text number 2, page number 4, the truth is that the mitzvah of remembrance is an active mitzvah, which is done out of love and leads to compassion. So the mitzvah, because one who does the command of their master loves him, and his master has compassion of him. That's shomer, zachar. Zachar, there's two things on Shabbos. Zachar, remember the Shabbos, and shomer, to watch the Shabbos. Shomer v'zachar. In one of the 10 Commandments, it says zachar shomer Shabbos, and in Deuteronomy it says shomer shomer Shabbos. Zachar v'shomer means to watch, and to remember, and shomer to watch. It says it's like said in one verse. So the Ramban says, why do you need to have these two expressions of zachar and shomer? Zachar, to remember the Shabbos, means to do something on the Shabbos. Show that you remember the Shabbos. Make kiddush on Shabbos. That's how you show you remember the Shabbos. Eat a suda on Shabbos. Actually eat 3 meals on Shabbos. Daven on Shabbos. Learn Torah on Shabbos. Do things that makes the zachar, that makes the remembrance, show an act of kindness to the Shabbos. That's actually is shomer Shabbos lekatchoy. Make the Shabbos holy. Shabbos is holy without you. God made the Shabbos holy. What it means to make the Shabbos holy? Means that a Jew is an active participant in the making of the Shabbos. He does something. Doesn't just go left. I mean, you can go through the whole Shabbos and not do any malach on Shabbos. Tie yourself to the bed, and you'll never do a sin on Shabbos. You won't do one sin if you're tied to the bed. What did you do, zachar? Did you remember the Shabbos? Lying in bed is not remembering the Shabbos. So there's an active chesed. Chesed means I'm doing something. Like if I love you, I do something to show that love. So too, if I love the Shabbos, I do something. What do you do for the Shabbos? Truth is that we love the Shabbos so much, and in the halacha it says every day should be there for Shabbos. Every day you should prepare for Shabbos. Sunday, I should prepare for Shabbos. Monday, I should prepare for Shabbos. So on and so forth. That's zachar. Remember the Shabbos. Umid the shomer. And what means to watch the Shabbos? The mitzvah to guard it is a passive mitzvah, similar to the trait of judgment, which stems from fear. Because one who abstains from doing something bad in the eyes of his master is afraid of him. So now we have the 365 negative commandments. And there are many negative laws on Shabbos, self-understood, the things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. Not allowed to do 39 malachas, 39 different acts of creation. And I do that because God said don't do it. Because God commanded in the Torah I shouldn't do it. And since I fear God, I don't do it. Therefore, an active mitzvah is greater than a passive mitzvah. Because an active mitzvah is a concept of chesed. And a passive mitzvah comes from the concept of gevurah, and chesed is greater than the gevurah. One who fulfills the desires master physically and monetarily is greater than one who abstains from doing something wrong in his eyes. Greater that somebody who serves his master than is afraid of his master. Greater that somebody that loves God than fears God. Thus the halachic rules that the active mitzvah overrides the passive mitzvah. So here the Nachmanis, the Ramban, explains why a passive mitzvah, a mitzvah, a loisasa, is pushed away for a mitzvah saseh. So, comes back to the milah, circumcision. I want to circumcise my child. The Torah said I should circumcise my child the 8th day. It's Shabbos. I want to do this mitzvah. Oh, but it's Shabbos. So it says, do the mitzvah. Do the positive mitzvah. Yeah. So that's the general law in the Torah. The mitzvah say it's a law in halacha. A positive mitzvah overrides, pushes away a negative mitzvah. What does it do with this week's parsha? So again, let's come to text number 5 in text number 3. I'm sorry, page number 5 in your book. And over here, he brings down a pasuk. We're going to learn a couple of psukim, verses in this week's portion. We're going to Leviticus chapter 9, verse 23. It says, and Moses and Aaron went out to the tent of meeting. And they went out and they blessed the people. And the glory of the Lord appeared before all the people. This happened on the 8th day of the dedication of the temple. The Eibishter revealed himself on the 8th day of the dedication of the temple. The Eibishter revealed himself. When we say God revealed himself, means that there was a great nachasru, a great pleasure to God to reveal himself to the world. To the world, it came down to the world. That's why it's called a mishkan. It's called a dwelling. It's a dwelling place for God. God dwelt in the world. He came down into the world. Which to the Eibishter, to God, this was the whole purpose of creation. Make for me a tabernacle and I'll dwell in your midst. That was the whole concept of Dira B'Tachtenim. That was the whole concept of why the world was created. So that the God would dwell in this world. Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron HaKohen accomplished giving the Torah, and even after the story of the Egel, accomplished the purpose of creation, which happened, we're holding over 2,000 years after creation, after Adam and Eve. After all that, 2,000 years of history, Moses and Aaron came this 8th day. That's why you understand. There was a great joy in heaven. You see that before the Gemara says. And it came to pass by Yehi. On the 8th day, it was a taught in the Brisa tradition, in the oral law, not incorporated in the Mishnah. On that day, there was joy before the Holy One, blessed be. Similar to the joy existed on which the day the heavens and earth were created. Because the heavens and earth were created thousands of years before, 2,000, I think this is 2,448, I believe. From creation, till this day, on the 8th day of the dedication of the temple, there wasn't the purpose of creation. That's when God created the world. Before the sin of Adam and Eve, they were like Gan Eden. They were in paradise. There was a revelation of God in the world. Since the sin of the tree of knowledge, there was not a revelation in the world like it was on the day that the Beis Hamikdash was dedicated. It was a great celebration. It's written here with regard to the dedication of tabernacle. It came to pass by Yehi on the 8th day. And it's written the creation story. And it was Vayihi. Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boiker, Yom Echad. The first day. Vayihi. What a great joy to the heaven in heaven. That after thousands of years came about the whole purpose of creation, which was a Dira B'Tachtenim, which was a concept of God coming down into the world and dwelling in this world. And it happened on the 8th day of this dedication. So it was an unbelievable day. An unbelievable day. And that's why the continuation of this unbelievable day is shocking. as a day itself. And that is the story of the two sons of Aaron. And that's why Moses expressed himself that they're holy people. They didn't just do it. They didn't do it as a sin. The Kroivei HaKodesh, they did it because they sanctified themselves. They wanted to bring more greater sanctity to the Beis Hamikdash. And that's why you have a text on the 5a. You have it again, the pasuk continues in the Vayikra, Leviticus 10, chapter 10, verse number 1 to 3. And Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, took each his pan, put a fire in it, placed incense upon it, and they brought before God a foreign fire, which he had not commanded them. Fire went forth from God and consumed them, and they died before God. And Moses said to Aaron, this is what I said just now, this is what God spoke when he said, I will be sanctified through those near to me, and before all the people I will be glorified. By Yidim Aaron, and Aaron was silent. There's a lot of commentators on the story of Nadav and Avihu. Lot. And this is not the class for it. The Sikha over here is not going into that whole story. The Sikha is going into what happened after the story, after their death. But there's a story of the death, as Rashi says on this last verse, on verse number 3. Rashi says that Moses says to Aaron, I thought that the Beis Hamikdash would be sanctified through us, and now I realize that it's to be sanctified through them. That Nadav and Avihu are greater than me and you. So they wanted to do something supernatural. And actually, Siddur says they wanted to have an out-of-body experience, spiritual. Since they had such a revelation, they wanted to reach to higher than any physical plane. And ultimately, that's exactly what they received. And they went out of their body. They never came back. But that's not the Sikha. The Sikha goes into the next part, verse number 4 and 5 of that chapter. Chapter 10, verse number 4 and 5. This is even more unbelievable, the second part of the story. So here these two boys died in front of their father and their brothers. And then, but they're still in the middle of the dedication of the temple. They're still in the middle of the service of the temple. So this is what Moses did. Moses was running the show then. So the verse says, Vayikra Moshe summoned Mishael and Al-Tzafan. He summoned the two uncles, he summoned the two cousins of the sons of Aaron's uncle Uziel. His uncle Uziel was the uncle of Moses and Aaron, was Uziel. His father, the brother of Amram, was Uziel. And Uziel had Mishael and Tzafan. So they were cousins. He said to them, draw near. They were part of the tribe of Levi. He said, carry a kinsman from within the sanctuary to the outside the camp. He called these two guys, said, listen, you need to take care of these two people right now. You need to take their bodies out of the temple. You need to go, and so approach and carry them from their tunics to the outside the camp, as Moses spoke. Go and take them, and you have to bury them. You have to do the job that nobody wants to do right now. You have to do something that nobody over here wants to do. Right? Because everybody's celebrating. We're in the middle of a celebration, and this tragedy happens. We're in the middle of celebration. What do? Moses calls two other guys, and you take, then you bury them, and we're going to continue the celebration here. And he tells Aaron and his brothers, Aaron and his sons, you can take them out. You cannot leave. You can't even go to the funeral. You cannot mourn at this present time. which is unbelievable. The yontiv overrides the morning, even in today's life. If a chas v'sholem, somebody passed away out of Pesach, and the yontiv starts after they were buried, the yontiv pushes away the shiva, the morning. Or if somebody would die in the middle of the yontiv, and now he cannot sit shiva till after the yontiv. Can't sit shiva until you don't sit shiva until after the whole chag. So we push off the shiva until after the chag. So Moses tells Aaron, you're going to have to sit shiva after the celebration. You cannot stop the celebration right now. We need to continue to celebrate. And Rashi says, carry your kinsman from the sanctuary, etc., as a person would say to his fellow, when someone had died at a wedding feast, remove the deceased from the bride, but not to disturb the joyous occasion. Here too, Mishal and Sasan were to remove the dead from inside the sanctuary, so not to disturb the serenity of the investors of the sanctuary. You're having a celebration. Let's say you're having a great celebration. Not to give such a drastic, and give you a more simpler analogy, maybe something more that we can understand, is death is a very hard thing to comprehend. To continue with simcha, but let's say you lose something, your precious diamond, making a great simcha, and you lose a diamond. You can destroy your whole simcha right now. You can go into a panic. You can destroy the whole simcha, or you just say, you know what, we gotta put it aside right now. I gotta go to the simcha. I have a simcha of a chassid of my child. Either I'm gonna destroy my whole simcha because of this loss, or I'm going to push it aside. And I'm going to go to the simcha. And then I'll worry about my loss. This is the same thing, not exactly the same analogy. So here we're dealing with a death in the family. But in essence, that's what we tell a person. You have to push away your simcha. You have to push away your mourning. You have to stop your mourning because you're going into the yontiv. You're not allowed to mourn in yontiv. And if it goes to a major holiday like Pesach, and as I said, it happened the day before Pesach or 2 days before Pesach, the Pesach pushes off breaks the mourning. There's no mourning anymore. Why? Because joy. This is what we see with joy. Pushes off. Simcha pushes off even mourning. Simcha Yantiv pushes off mourning. God says to the Jewish people, great tragedy, but we're in the middle of a simcha. We're in the middle of a joyful occasion. The joy, not that we're not going to mourn, we'll mourn. But right now, we cannot push off the simcha. We cannot push off the joy. And the joy needs to override right now the atzvus, the sadness. So we see that Rebbe says, just like a positive mitzvah pushes off a negative mitzvah, joy needs to push off sadness. You cannot have both things. You cannot mourn and celebrate. One has to take precedent. Not that you're saying that you're not going to mourn, but right now one cannot go with the other. Therefore, you need joy. You always go with the joy. Always take silent joy. Yep. So the Rebbe says in text number 6, burying the deceased was not an active, positive service, like singing in the Mishkan. Rather, it was a negative action, removing the items that would disrupt the Mishkan service. So you had either or to the side. What do? They had to be buried. So Moshe Rabbeinu took called two other people. Now the question is, these two guys, Rachmanis and these two guys, the whole Yidden are joyful. Moshe, Aaron, their cousins are in the middle of being inaugurated. They also are Leviim, so they're also part of the service. Now they were given the job of doing the negative. They were given the job of doing the sadness. While the rest of the Jews continued to celebrate, they were busy with Avelis, with mourning. How should they looked at it at that time? How would they looked at it? How should they looked at it in that time? Should they be depressed? Look, the whole Jewish nation is celebrating, and we are dealing and burying the dead, and we're becoming impure, and basically not part of the celebration. You have to realize again that they were Leviim, they were Levites, so they were not just part of the rest of the Jewish nation who was celebrating. They were actually actively involved in the celebration because they were involved in the Beis Hamikdash. So how do we look at these two people who, at the time of celebration, had to do something that was negative, had to do something that was the opposite of the celebration? So the Rebbe writes in text number 7. Look, a beautiful statement the Rebbe says in your page number 9. It emerges that in doing this service, Mishal and El Tzapon were not removed from rejoicing in the Mishkan. Taking Nadav and Avihu out of the Mishkan was how they took part of the Simcha. Nadav and Avihu understood by them doing that service, they were giving joy to the rest of the Jewish nation. If there wouldn't be somebody who would get up and be the one to take out the two dead bodies, then the celebration wouldn't continue. Their dedication to go and separate themselves from the rest of the Jewish people, to do a service seemingly that was the opposite of what's happening at the temple, they realized what a simcha they're going to bring Am Yisrael by doing that service. I'll give you an example. See that today in religious communities where they have Hatzalah. They have these guys who are a voluntary Hatzalah member. And these guys are unbelievable because they run out of the house in the middle of the Shabbos meal or in the middle of the Yom Tov meal. Imagine you're sitting together at a Pesach table and they get beeped and they run out. So how are they to look at it? Are they to look at it, oi, why everybody's sitting by the Seder table, enjoying the Seder meal, now I'm running out, and now I'm going to miss the whole Seder? I'm sure they don't look at it that way. I'm sure they look at it, wow, what a schus they have to be able to run and help another Yid, to be able to run and save another Jew, to make another family happy. It's a Mesiras Nefesh that they do and their family does, that they do this on a constant, a regular basis. Unbelievable things. And they do it with joy. Because if they didn't do it with joy, they wouldn't do it. They do it with joy and happiness and gladness. And like I said, not only they do it with joy and happiness, their families are happy. Not happy that somebody got sick, but they're happy that if somebody got sick, that their loved ones would run out of their house on Friday night, in the middle of the Shabbos meal or in the middle of Pesach meal, or whenever it is, they'll run out of a simcha and they'll run to save a yid, run to save another person, to make another family happy. That was the beauty of the way you look at something, the way you even look at a negative concept. You can look at a negative concept as, oh, I cannot do it, or why am I different? Oh, why can that guy do it and I can't do it? Why do I have to miss out on the celebration? Or you can look at it, wow, I have the capability to bring such continued joy. So I'm sure the Rebbe says that Tzafin and Uziel said to themselves, wow, by taking out their cousins Nadav and Avihu, the celebration in the Beis Hamikdash will continue. And the Jews will continue to celebrate. We have the schus to make sure that that happens. Over here, the Rebbe gives us an insight of how to look at everything, that we do, whether it's positive or that we don't do a negative, all should be done with simcha. All should be done with joy. Because whether I'm doing something positive, I'm actively involved, or whether I'm doing seeming something that I'm inactive, doing something different than everybody else, because everybody else is doing this and I'm not doing it, as this week's portion. Everybody else can eat this food and I'm not eating this food. Wow, what a schus I have to be able to do this positive commandment and, God forbid, not to do a negative commandment. It could be that's why the Torah puts this, the story of Dodom and Avihu with the laws of kashrus in the same parsha. Because kashrus is as Jews, we are automatically denied of so much things that the rest of the world has, and the rest of the world enjoys. Whether it's in the fish, whether it's in the fowl, whether it's in the animals, we are denied seemingly of all this kind of delicacies. And to say that's not, doesn't taste good, it doesn't, it's not a delicacy, that's living in a world of denial. So it is a delicacy, and it is a product that the Torah says the rest of the world can eat. I'm denied it. So I can look at it as a negative, I can look at it as a positive. So the Rebbe gives another analogy of this concept, the way you're supposed to look at something, and how God wanted that every one of us should look at things in the world. So he gives us an example, Maimonides, in text number 8. There was a mitzvah in the Torah, was called Aromas Hadeshen. Aromas Hadeshen was the taking of the ashes. Every day, you see, on the altar burnt the whole night. The fire on the altar was always burning. There was always ashes on the altar. There was a mitzvah every morning to take off a cup of ashes. It was a very, dealing with ashes. It was, I don't use the word on a service in the temple. It was a dirty job. It was, I'll bring a sacrifice. I don't want to deal with ashes. Why would I deal with ashes? Get somebody else to deal with ashes. Get the schlepper to deal with ashes. Why should I deal with ashes? Go find the new guy in town to deal with ashes. The Torah says, interesting, the halacha says in text number 8, lifting the ashes from the altar is an active mitzvah. As it says, he shall lift up the ashes. This job is a priestly job. How do we do this job, the Rambam says? One who merited to raise the ashes must have immersed in a mikveh and wear clothing for the lifting. He also cleans his hands and his feet. Does he does the ashes like he's doing any other great, important service in the temple. So what do we see from that? So in text 9, Rabbi Chaya says, we learn that even when it comes to the mitzvah of removing the ashes from the altar, which would seem to be a light mitzvah, God instructed us to honor the mitzvah. It is performed by the Kohen who is dressed in priestly vestments. This demonstrates a general approach to anyone who wishes to come close to God, or to assume whether it is that he or she is doing. If it's for God, they ought to regard it with much honor, being humble in the face of God, whom they are honoring. This approach applies to even to the lightest of all modes of service. When we're servicing our Kadosh Baruch Hu, there's no difference what the service is. Whether it's bringing a sacrifice, whether it's going to the Holy of Holies, whether it's taking out simple ashes out of the temple. Do it with grace, do it with joy, do it with humility, do it in the right way. The Alter Rebbe says in text number 10, Alter Rebbe says, when a human king wishes to occupy a pleasant living place, he first instructs the chambers to be cleared from all the filth and disarray, and thereafter nice furniture, a bed, table, chairs, a lamp are brought in. So is it our religious life, as it's stated. And God placed Adam in the garden to work and guard it. Our sages explain, to work it, these are the active mitzvahs. To guard it, these are the passive mitzvahs. Same Zocha v'Shama. In other words, the passive mitzvahs functions to eradicate all evil, so that there should be and there shouldn't be any filth. The active mitzvahs are knowledge of placing nice furniture in the house. Namely, they fulfill the purpose of creation to fashion a home for God in the corporate world. So whether it's a positive commandment, or whether it's a negative commandment, whether it's a concept of doing something, bringing furniture in the house, whether it's a concept of cleaning the dirt from your house, still the same mitzvah, still the same service. The very famous story, I'll end off with a story of the Baal Shem Tov. The very famous story of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov once came into a town. When they heard the Baal Shem Tov was coming to town, townspeople came to him. It was before the Yom Kippur. They said to him, Rebbe, we need your help. He said, sure, I'll help you out. What can I do for you? He said, you need to talk to our chazan. You need to talk to our cantor. Our cantor, who's the only one who could be a chazan, he can't get another by a person, but he has a crazy mishigas. He has a crazy kind of a custom. When it comes to a shamnu, but God knew, we have sinned, we have done iniquities, we have been bad. He does it in a song. And we're very uncomfortable. Who wants to sing a Shamnu Bagadnu? A Shamnu, we bang our hearts. We say, oh, we sinned. We have to, and he's singing. Yeah. He's singing. You got to tell him that it's not a time to sing. It's a time to cry. A Shamnu Bagadnu. We have been sinners. We're terrible people. Why are you singing? We're terrible people. So Hashem said, okay, let me talk to the Chazan. So he called the Chazan. The Chazan, the people are asking a question. Why does he sing when he's banging, when he sings a part of the prayers where we ask God that we're sinners and we're terrible people, forgive us? Does he do his song? So the Chazan said to the Baal Shem Tov, let me ask you a question. In the palace of the king, there are many, many ministers. Big ministers, small big knackers, small knackers. It's a lot of things going on in the palace. And then there's the cleaner, the guy, the simple cleaner. He's taking out all the garbage. That's his job. Parsha to take out the garbage. So I ask you a question, my dear Rebbe. Should the garbage collector be sad? Should he sit there and say, oh, look at my job. I'm a garbage collector. I'm a cleaner. I'm not a big minister. I'm simply a cleaner. I'm cleaning all the schmutz from this kingdom. Or should this cleaner say, wow, what a schus. All these ministers and the king himself can only enjoy this beautiful palace is because I clean the schmutz out of the palace. If I wasn't cleaning the schmutz out of the palace, the king and all his ministers would have a smelly existence. They would be in a very dirty area. So I ask you, when I say Hashem Meganu, I'm telling God I'm cleaning up the garbage. I'm cleaning up all the sins. I'm taking out all the garbage. I'm taking out all the negative. I'm getting rid of the negative. Should I do it in sadness or should I do it in joy? Should the cleaner in the palace clean the palace in joy because he's cleaning the palace and giving the king the capability of sitting in a clean palace? Or should he do it in sadness because he got the job to clean? I do it in joy, the Hashem Nebagadnu, because I'm happy to clean up all the sins of Am Yisrael so that God will be comfortable to live with us. Hashem Tov called in the community and he said to them, you were zoicha to have an unbelievable chazan. And you should sing with him together the Hashamdu. He's 100% right. And that's why by Chabad, we sing the Hashamdu on Yom Kippur. We have to be happy, not only with the positive things that we're doing, we have to be happy also with cleaning up the negative. We're cleaning up the schmutz, cleaning up all the avedas, all the sins that we might have had, holding ourselves back from all the negativity and all the things that we shouldn't do. We should be happy with doing the positive. We should be happy with cleaning up the negative, whether it's not doing the negative or ultimately doing tshuva and cleaning up the negative. We should be happy whatever we can do in the service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That the Rebbe says is what we learn from the aspect of where the Torah says that Nadav and Avihu passed away. His cousins, Tzaf and Uziel, did a besimcha when Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Go into to go do this mitzvah, do something that's going to be opposite of what everyone else is going to be doing. Everyone else is going to continue to joy, and now you are going to be busy out of the camp with burying your cousins, and now you're going to become impure, and you're going to be out of the simcha. But by doing that, you're going to bring great joy to the Jewish nation." They did it with great joy. They went out to do this with great joy. Let us all do with great joy, whether it's positive commandments, whether it's not doing Avedas. We should all do it with great joy, because in any aspect that we do in life, we're doing it because we're serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're serving God. And if we're serving God, whether it's a big mitzvah, whether it's a small mitzvah, whether it's not doing a big Aveda, whether it's not doing a small Aveda, it doesn't make a difference. Every one of us is doing it to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to serve God. And God says, as you listen to these parshas, God continues to say, Nachas ruach lefanai, I get a great pleasure, a great delight. Shamaiti v'naseh etzayne, that I've asked for something and you have accomplished it and you have done it. That's the sikha of the Rebbe, a beautiful sikha of the Rebbe in this week's parsha. I wish you all a good night, a wonderful evening, and Mitzvah, we'll see you again. If you don't have a book, please order the book, because there's a book on this week, on this whole book of Vayikra, on the whole book of Vayikra, beautiful sikhs of the Rebbe on the whole book. So hopefully you'll get this book. So you'll be able to learn together with us. I wish you all a wonderful night.
When is the Thursday class starting?
The Thursday class is starting, I believe, on April 29th. Am I correct? April 29th is the JLI class.
Okay, great. Thank you.
God bless you. You also get the book for that. April 29th, the class is called This Can Happen. A credible case for feeling good about the future. Oh, it's about Mashiach.
Wow.
I'll see you then.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi.
Good night, guys.
Thank you so much.